Lazy Chill Zone, a journalistic chronicle of a mysterious disappearance. By a freelance investigative journalist. In the small, quiet town of Elmwood, nestled between endless rows of aging oak trees and unkempt streets, there exists a place called the Lazy Chill Zone. To the locals, it's merely a rundown lounge with an ironic name. But for me, it was the beginning of a mystery that has haunted me for the past 2 years. A mystery I'm still struggling to make sense of. It began on a warm summer evening in late August 2022, when I first heard of the Lazy Chill Zone. The establishment wasn't much to look at, faded neon lights flickering in the night, a cracked door with peeling paint, and windows clouded by years of dust. Yet, it seemed to possess a peculiar charm that attracted a certain type of person. Many of them came from the nearby university, looking for an escape from the relentless demands of their studies or the complicated realities of life. It was a place of indulgence and respite. But for one particular patron, it would become their final destination. Amelia Harris, a 22-year-old psychology student at the local university, was last seen entering the Lazy Chill Zone on the night of August 21, 2022. The evening had started like any other. Amelia, who was known for her shy but thoughtful demeanor, had just finished a study session at the university library and was headed to meet a friend at the lounge. They had planned to relax after a week of intense exams. According to her friend, Lydia Stevens, the two had shared a few drinks, laughed about the absurdities of university life, and talked about their plans for the future. But then, something changed. At some point, around 10:30 p.m., Lydia said Amelia became quiet. She was staring at something, no one knew exactly what, off to the side of the lounge, near a dimly lit corner by the jukebox. Amelia stood up abruptly, excused herself, and walked towards the back of the room. When Lydia went to look for her a few minutes later, she found that Amelia's coat and purse were still at the table. The other patrons claimed to have seen her walking toward the rear exit, but no one could recall seeing her leave the building. The staff, when questioned, reported nothing unusual. In fact, the bartender said he remembered Amelia laughing and chatting just a few minutes before her sudden disappearance. The next morning, Lydia tried calling her. When there was no answer, she assumed Amelia had gone home early and fallen asleep. But when she returned to the university later that day, her worst fears were realized. Amelia hadn't returned to her apartment. The investigation into Amelia's disappearance was launched soon after. The police questioned everyone who had been at the lounge that night, but the answers they received were frustratingly vague. Some patrons mentioned seeing a shadow at the back of the room, but no one could identify it. Others reported hearing strange, disembodied voices in the jukebox music, as though the songs were distorted in a way they couldn't explain. The police initially chalked it up to the typical noise in a busy bar. The strange messages. It was a week later, on August 28th, when the first strange thing happened. A text message arrived on Lydia's phone. It was from Amelia's number. The message read, "I'm here. It's not what it seems. I'm not coming back." Lydia immediately tried to call her, but the phone went straight to voicemail. At first, Lydia thought it might be a prank, but she knew Amelia's phone had been off the grid for days. The message didn't seem to make sense. Where was "here"? And what was she trying to say about it? The police, upon receiving the message, traced the location to a cell tower near the outskirts of Elmwood, far from the Lazy Chill Zone. This led investigators to suggest that Amelia had somehow gone into hiding or left town, though there was no concrete evidence to support this theory. The next evening, another message arrived. It was similar in tone. "It's not what you think. Don't look for me. I'm safe, just not in the way you think." The cryptic nature of these messages was disturbing, and I was drawn into the case as a journalist. Amelia had disappeared into thin air, and now these bizarre texts hinted at something far darker. Something that didn't make sense. As I dug deeper into the mystery of Amelia's disappearance, I began speaking to those who had frequented the Lazy Chill Zone. Many claimed that something about the place was off. Several patrons reported feeling like they were being watched or followed, even when no one was around. One woman described seeing figures in the corner, standing still, yet not quite human. Another claimed that on a few occasions, the jukebox played songs that didn't exist in its catalog. But perhaps the most unsettling account came from Carl Porter, a former regular who claimed to have experienced strange visions inside the lounge. He described one night when he was seated at the bar, nursing a drink. The lights flickered, and the world around him seemed to distort. The walls of the lounge appeared to melt, and he saw people walking by who didn't look right, shadows or shapes that didn't match the human form. He recalled feeling an overwhelming urge to leave, but something kept him seated. "It was like I wasn't supposed to leave," Carl told me, his voice shaking as he recounted the events. "And then the bartender. He wasn't even human. He was smiling at me, but I could see it wasn't really him. It was something else. I don't know what to call it, but it was wrong." Carl's testimony haunted me. It was as if the very fabric of reality in the Lazy Chill Zone had unraveled, and no one was aware of it. My search for answers led me to the Old Town Archives, where I found something strange in the public records. A history of disappearances stretching back decades. Elmwood was a town full of dark secrets, but none as chilling as the one I uncovered. In the late 1970s, there were reports of strange incidents similar to Amelia's, unexplained disappearances, odd disturbances in the local taverns, and whispers about a so-called chill zone. The name wasn't exactly the same, but it was clear that something had been happening in that very location for years, something that the locals had either forgotten or buried. The records were sparse, and the details remained ambiguous, but it was enough to make me question whether this was all just a coincidence, or if something far more sinister was at play. To this day, Amelia Harris remains missing. The Lazy Chill Zone has since closed its doors, but the building still stands on the corner of Elmwood Avenue and Mill Street, its darkened windows a silent reminder of the things that might have transpired within. Some say that the place is cursed, others claim it's simply a product of a tired, old town filled with its ghosts. But after my investigation, I can't help but wonder if something more paranormal was at play. What happened to Amelia that night? Where did she go? And why did she leave those cryptic messages behind? Perhaps one day, someone will uncover the truth. But for now, the mystery remains. And every time I pass that building, I can't shake the feeling that, in the shadows, something is still watching.